Okay, class, so we're going to be learning about the Electoral College today. First, we're going to open up with a little fun question. So everyone, what is a presidential candidate's lucky number? And please don't shout it out. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to think about it.
And the question is, what is a presidential candidate's lucky number?
Fourth grade. You guys are fourth graders. Cat.
Numero cuatro.
That's a good guess. Can someone else give us an answer?
270.
Good job. And the answer is 270 because that's how many electoral votes a president needs to become president or win the presidency.
I like how everyone was raising their hands.
All right, so we are going to read a fun little book that'll help us understand the Electoral College a little better in a fun way. It's called Grace for President. One Monday morning in September, Mrs. Barrington rolled out a big poster with all the president's pictures on it. Grace Campbell could not believe her eyes. Where are the girls? That is a very good question, said Mrs. Barrington. The truth is, our country has never had a woman president. No girl president ever? Grace asked. No, I'm afraid not, said Mrs. Barrington. Grace sat at her desk and stewed. No girls? Who'd ever heard of such a crazy thing? Finally, she raised her hand. Yes, Grace? I've been thinking it over, and I'd like to be president. Several students in the class laughed. Well, I think that's a star-spangled idea, Grace, said Mrs. Barrington. In fact, we can have our own election right here at Woodrow Wilson Elementary. The snickering in the room stopped. Grace smiled. Would anyone else like to run for president? Said Mrs. Barrington. Mrs. Barrington asked the class. Nobody raised their hand. Becoming president was going to be easy, Grace thought. The next day, Mrs. Barrington made an announcement. In the name of democracy, I have invited Mr. Waller's class to join our election. Their class has nominated Thomas Cobb to be their presidential candidate. Grace's heart sank. Thomas was the school spelling bee champion. His experiments always took a blue ribbon at the science fair, and he was captain of the soccer team. Becoming president wasn't going to be so easy after all, Grace thought. Just kidding. Next one. The teachers put the names of all 50 states and the District of Columbia into a hat. Everyone except for Grace and Thomas got to choose a state. I'm Texas, said Anthony. I'm New Hampshire, said Rose. I'm Michigan, said Robbie. What does the number 16 mean? Each state is assigned a number of electoral votes. That number is determined by how many people live in that state, said Mrs. Barrington. Each of you will be a representative for your state. Altogether, our country has 538 electoral votes, Mr. Waller explained. On election day, the candidate who receives 270 electoral votes or more wins the election. Why 270? Asked Rose. That's more than half of the electoral votes, Mr. Waller said. Becoming president really wasn't going to be so easy, Grace thought. Grace came up with a campaign slogan, Make History, Vote Grace Campbell for President. Thomas came up with his own campaign slogan, Vote Thomas Cobb, the best man for the job. Grace listened to what issues were important to the students, and she made a list of campaign promises. Thomas made up his own list of promises. Grace made campaign posters and buttons. Thomas made posters and buttons too. Each week, the teacher set aside time for the candidates to meet with their constituents. Polls were taken, voters were making their choices. Grace continued to campaign. At recess, she gave speeches. During lunch, she handed out free cupcakes. After school, she held rallies. He had cleverly calculated that the boys held slightly more electoral votes than the girls. At recess, Thomas studied his spelling words. During lunch, he worked on his latest science experiment. After school, he played soccer. Even before the election, Grace made good on her promises. She joined the safety squad. She organized a school beautification committee, and she volunteered her time in the school cafeteria. In early November, Woodrow Wilson Elementary hosted a special election day assembly. Grace and Thomas took their places on stage at the school band, and the school band began to play. Henry was the first representative to approach the microphone. The Yellowhammer State of Alabama cast its 9 electoral votes for Thomas Cobb. Fletcher said, the last frontier state of Alaska cast its 3 electoral votes for the best man for the job, Thomas Cobb. The Grand Canyon state of Arizona cast its 11 electoral votes for Grace Campbell. And so it went on. State after state after state cast their electoral votes. The scoreboard in the gymnasium kept track of the totals. The voting demonstration was quickly coming to an end. Clara approached the podium. The Badger state of Wisconsin cast its 10 votes for my best friend, Grace Campbell. Grace looked at the scoreboard. Thomas had 268 electoral votes. She had 267. There was only one state still accounted for, Wyoming. Thomas grinned. Grace felt sick. Sam walked up to the microphone. He looked at Thomas. He looked at Grace. He looked down at Grace's handmade flag. Sam didn't say a word. What are you waiting for? Thomas whispered. The band stopped playing. All eyes were on Wyoming. Finally, Sam cleared his throat. The equality state of Wyoming cast its 3 electoral votes for Grace Campbell. The gymnasium erupted in loud cheers and a few boos. Mrs. Barrington approached the podium with 270 electoral votes. The winner is Grace Campbell. Thomas looked stunned. Grace hugged Sam. Why did you do it? She asked. Sam handed Grace his flag because, he said, I thought you were the best person for the job. The following week, students in Mrs. Barrington's class were preparing for their career day presentations. Grace volunteered to go first. She stood at the front of the room and glanced at the posters still hanging on the wall. My name is Grace Campbell, and when I grow up, I'm going to be the President of the United States. This time, everyone believes she will. And there she is in the picture. And that is Grace for President. So now we're going to go into a little bit more detail of the Electoral College itself.
So the book itself talks about the Electoral College. Can anybody raise their hand and kind of let me know what they remember from the book about the Electoral College and or electoral votes? Yes.
Bigger states have more votes.
Good, okay. And I like how you brought that up. So bigger states do get more votes, but not bigger states in size. So we can have a small state that still gets a lot of electoral votes because it depends on the population of the state. So what is happening right now is you guys are each getting 2 different states with 2 different electoral votes. And once you have these, we are going to be having our own mock election, except we're not voting for a president. We're going to be voting for which candy is the most favorite in the class, M&Ms or Skittles. So when you get your 2 states, you are going to pick M&Ms or Skittles, and you will be casting your vote based on the states you're given. So if you are given California and Wyoming, and you choose M&Ms, your vote will be blue. And if you choose Skittles, your vote will be red.
Cinder, do you want to come up a little closer and join us?
Kevin?
Is it specifically peanut M&Ms or is it regular M&Ms?
So it is peanut M&Ms and original Skittles. Peanut M&Ms and original Skittles. So Cassandra and I are going to be going around and asking what your favorite candy is.
And as you choose your candy, once everyone has their candies and chose their candy, we will go through and see if the United States ends up more red or blue. So M&M's, red. M&M's are blue. And Skittles are red. And so if it's mostly red, that means Skittles are the winner. If it's mostly blue, that means M&M's are the winner. And we'll look at the number too. What number do we need to win? 270 or less or more?
More.
Good.
And Tyler, you're going to fill out the states with us.
So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to choose Skittles or M&M's. I like how this front group right here is waiting quietly.
So you chose M&Ms. What were your states?
Kentucky and Tennessee.
Kentucky and Tennessee.
And it was M&M?
So Kentucky has 8 electoral votes and Tennessee has 11.
Yes. So how many votes did you have in total?
19.
Yes. So you had 19 votes in total between Kentucky and Tennessee. Next.
Okay, and we chose Skittles for what 2 states?
I have Virginia and West Virginia.
Virginia and West Virginia. Skittles. So that's red for Skittles. And Virginia had 13 electoral votes, and West Virginia had 5.
Looks like we have some more M&Ms for
Alabama,
That's about right.
and blue, and Mississippi is blue. And that's 6 for Mississippi and 9 for Alabama. What are we seeing so far? More blue. So are more people choosing M&Ms or Skittles? M&Ms. Good.
and the pattern is continuing with more M&Ms for
Idaho and Massachusetts.
Idaho and Massachusetts. M&Ms.
Do you notice how big Idaho is, but it only has 4 electoral votes? All right, and we have some Skittles for
Louisiana and Illinois.
Skittles, Louisiana, and Illinois. So 20 Illinois, 8 Louisiana.
alrighty M&Ms for
Alaska and Oregon.
Alaska and Oregon. M&M's blue and Oregon blue.
once again Alaska looks pretty big, but it only has those 3 electoral college votes. So that's super important to remember. It's not the size of your state, but how many people are in your state. So some more M&Ms for
Nebraska and Arkansas.
Nebraska and Arkansas, M&M's. So Arkansas is blue because she chose M&M's. And you said Nebraska?
Yes.
Okay.
alrighty, and we have some more M&Ms for
Yo tengo Kansas y Hawaii.
Kansas and Hawaii, M&M.
yes.
Sí.
Blue and Kansas.
And more M&Ms for
Arizona and Washington.
M&M's for Arizona and Washington. What are we noticing? More blue.
a lot of blue.
Miranda, we have Skittles for
Minnesota and Pennsylvania.
Minnesota and Pennsylvania. Skittles is red, so I turned Pennsylvania red. And Minnesota.
It's all the way on top in the middle. Right there, right there, right there. Right there, right there.
Bear with me.
Okay, we have more Skittles for
New Jersey and Delaware.
New Jersey and Delaware. So you said M&M's?
Skittles.
Skittles, so that's red. And
right below it.
Can we do like a quick little guess of who do we think is gonna win this electoral college vote?
M&Ms or Skittles?
If you think, who do you think is gonna win? If you think M&Ms are gonna win, raise your hand.
Wait, what color?
and
Blue.
we have a lot of votes.
And who do you think is gonna win Skittles? Keep in mind, we still have California and Texas open. Look how many electoral votes they have.
Okay, so we have more
Alrighty.
Skittles for New Mexico and North Dakota.
New Mexico, Skittles, and North Dakota. Skittles, red and red.
And more M&Ms for
California and Oklahoma.
That's a big
Can we
one.
notice how many California has versus Alaska? How many does California have?
50.
And how many does Alaska have? 3. That's a big difference, right? What was our other state?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
and then we have Skittles for
Nevada and Connecticut.
Skittles, Nevada, and
Connecticut.
Where are you?
It's on the side.
Here we go.
and then we have M&Ms for
Missouri
Missouri
and Rhode Island.
and Rhode Island. Blue. Let's look at the top up here. It shows based on the number of electoral votes, who is the closest to winning so far?
M&M.
Blue. So M&M's 179 and Skittles 114.
So still a pretty close race. It'll come down
New York and
closer
Texas.
to Texas.
Florida.
So we have more Skittles for
Montana and Iowa. Montana and Iowa Skittles. Oops, sorry, that's red. And Montana is whoops, red.
and then we have more Skittles for
Texas and Wisconsin.
Texas. So let's look at how many the Skittles have. 123. And then when we make Texas choose Skittles, now we have 161. So it went up a lot for Skittles. Texas and Tennessee?
Wisconsin.
and then we have
This is really
Skittles
close.
for
South Dakota Skittles.
Michigan.
Michigan Skittles.
And
Good.
then M&M's for
Wait, so let's look who's winning. Skittles or M&M's now? Skittles.
Skittles.
We have a couple more.
The tables have turned.
M&M's for Indiana and Utah.
Indiana M&M's and Utah M&M's.
and then we have more M&M's
For Georgia and Washington D.C.
Georgia. M&M's?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, guys. No.
Vermont.
That is in
DC.
On the side.
Oh, I clicked wrong.
Yeah.
and then we have more M&M's
For Florida and North Carolina.
Florida and North Carolina.
Florida was a
That's
big
about
one.
it.
Let's look up here.
Tables have turned
Yep.
M&M's 259. Skittles 190.
and then we have another M&M's for
South Carolina and Wyoming. South Carolina and Wyoming.
Oh no.
and then I'm gonna choose Skittles for New Hampshire and Ohio.
Ohio.
But
Skittles.
the arrows are already blue.
Skittles. All right, let's look at the top. 271 and
New York goes to
212.
I missed the one already.
So who's won already?
M&M.
M&M.
Florida and
M&M.
So even if we put in Skittles for the rest of the states, the M&M's won.
Why did the M&M's win?
270.
270. That's the winning number.
Lucky number.
Yes. So our M&M's won over the Skittles because it reached 270 or more first.
So what we're gonna do now is you guys are gonna pull out a piece of paper and just write a quick paragraph about what you guys learned today about the Electoral College. Once you're done with your paragraph, we want you to come up with your own slogan you would have if you were running for president.
And a few of you are gonna share out your slogans.
Just like Grace Campbell and Thomas Cobb did in our book.
Are there any questions about how the Electoral College works?
She understands.
Do you have any
Taking
questions?
the vote from each state.
Good. So we have senators that get the vote.
Oh, I like how everybody is writing their paragraphs, thinking about what they learned.
Sorry, we were a little one.
Did you notice how Patty already was at 271? So even if those other states were end up with a 271.
So it doesn't matter who reaches, so either way, either blue is gonna be 270 or red is gonna be 270. They can't both be 270. No,
I
no,
don't think so.
Right?
Yeah.
Numbers.
Yeah, because the numbers are either gonna, one can be local.
Okay.
Yeah.
So red would never be 270.
From our voting,
Yeah.
red could be different classroom if they chose more Skittles. But that's
Okay.
the,
Right.
the way our voting went.
So like real politics though.
Oh, I like it.
Because 29, 29. Is that 29?
Yeah, for New York.
Yeah, I think it's 36. So we call it. If we added 36 to not
Yeah.
39.
Sorry.
So there's 46, 46, and there's 10, so it's still not 40.
26. 55.
Yeah.
And then each
So yeah.
state college electoral votes are based off of how many people live there?
Yeah, the population in the state. So even though, like how we showed how Alaska or Idaho is like quite a larger state, but they don't have as much population as California does or Texas.
Okay,
So that's why they have more.
Just a few more
Even
minutes,
if we
guys.
have more, even if California has more people than a smaller state, but we have more immigrants and felons who don't vote than a smaller state, of course they potentially have more voters than we would have. But we still have to be there.
All right. Who would like? That's okay. Just work while we're talking. That's okay. Who would like to share their slogan that they created?
Raise your hand, please.
Yes.
Vote for Anthony Estrada. Why not?
Oh, I like that. Very good.
You have my vote. Tyler, did you have one?
Tyler Smith, the best person for the job.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Gender neutral.
Yes.
Our Pat wasn't very nice with his words, right? He wasn't using kind words when he said best man for the job.
How about someone from this side? Does
Do we have
anyone
any
wanna share?
fun?
Or would you like to share what you learned?
I made an acronym.
Ooh.
Mine is lead, educate, awesome, and help.
For Leah.
She used her
Wow.
name and then created a little poem with it. Can you say it again? Lead,
Just lead, educate, awesome, and help.
lead, educate, awesome, and help. Based off her name.
Awesome.
Very good.
Let's get one more person from this side.
One more person from this side.
What you learned or your slogan?
Yeah, Kevin, what'd you come up with?
I know all the best people to make decisions for you.
Oh, I like how you said that too. You used confidence. Very good. Very good. All right. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. That is